Are you ready to really like dive deep into all the stuff surrounding Joker? Folie à deux?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because, I mean, the reactions have been
all over the place.
Kind of wild. And we've got 4 different reviewers' takes on it. And they did not hold back.
No.
At all. No. Some are saying it's like the best movie ever, and some are saying
it's the worst thing they've ever seen.
It's so bad. Why would they even make it?
Yeah, I think the really fascinating thing with this one is that most of the reviewers seem to agree on a couple of things. Like, the visuals are incredible.
Okay.
The performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga are fantastic.
You both really bring it.
They do. But it's really when you get to the story where people start to diverge.
Okay, so we need to unpack all of this. We've got Beyond the Trailer, Penguin Zero, we have The Critical Drinker, and we have Jeremy Jans.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have kind of different takes on this. So what's like the overall sense that you're getting from them?
Well, I think it's interesting because the original Joker was a film that very much thrived on ambiguity.
Yeah.
It left the audience with this very unsettling feeling and a lot of questions, right? And I think this sequel seems to want to give more concrete answers.
Okay.
And I think that's something that some of the reviewers took issue with.
Like they were over-explaining things instead of just letting it be uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, one of the things that really gets to that is the musical numbers.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Everyone's talking about it.
Right.
What did the reviewers think about the music?
I mean, again, it's a mixed bag, but Beyond the Trailer specifically said that while they were really impressed by how the musical sequences looked visually, they didn't necessarily think that they served the narrative. And they even went so far as to say that Todd Phillips maybe should have brought in someone with a bit more experience in musicals to help him with that aspect of the film.
So it's like putting a disco ball in a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like, wait, what? A little jarring.
Yeah. Did anybody else agree with that sentiment?
The Critical Drinker actually went so far as to call them jarring and unnecessary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they basically said that they detract from the rawness of the psychological thriller that you kind of expect going into a Joker film.
So we have amazing visuals, we have good acting, but we have this like weird musical element.
Yes.
So what about the story itself? What did they have to say about the plot and the characters?
Penguin specifically said that he felt like the movie focused more on Harley Quinn's origin story than it did on the Joker, which is interesting.
So Arthur Fleck is kind of like a background character in his own sequel?
In a way, yeah. I mean, he's obviously a presence, but yeah.
Interesting.
I think it speaks to maybe this idea that the film is trying to be too many things at once, because we have Arthur Fleck, we have this kind of, I don't know what you call it, but this kind of love story, I guess, with Harley Quinn.
Yeah, toxic love story.
Toxic love story, yeah. There's a lot of commentary, I think, on mental illness and how society deals with that.
Right, and then they're trying to be a musical at the same time.
Exactly, so it's juggling a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So is it a case of maybe too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah, maybe.
Like too many storylines, too many things going on.
And you know, on that note of the storyline, a lot of reviewers picked up on the fact that Arthur's character seems to regress a little bit in this.
Yeah, a lot of them pointed out that he seems to kind of fall back into that weaker, more timid persona that he had at the beginning of the first movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like the sequel kind of undoes some of the character development that made the original so compelling.
So he doesn't really like fully embrace the chaos that he kind of unleashed.
Not really, no. He seems to still be defined by his insecurities and his anxieties.
And I think that kind of leads to a bigger question that a lot of the reviewers were grappling with, which is, was there actually more story to tell here? Or was this just a case of sequelitis? You know, where a studio is trying to capitalize on the success of a surprise hit.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to give the audience more of what they loved, but you don't want to just rehash the same story beats.
Exactly.
So did the reviewers feel like Joker, Folie à deux managed to strike that balance?
You know, not really. I think most of them seem to agree that the film is ambitious, but the execution is kind of all over the place. There are moments of brilliance, but also moments where it feels a little muddled, a little unfocused.
Did any scenes or moments stand out as particularly strong, even amidst the criticisms?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Every single reviewer seemed to single out one scene in particular, the courtroom scene.
What did they say about it?
They were blown away by it. Like, regardless of how they felt about the movie as a whole, everyone agreed that scene was incredibly impactful.
Interesting. What was it about that scene that resonated so strongly?
A lot of them talked about how it uses very specific cinematic techniques to create this sense of claustrophobia, this sense of unease. Like the way the camera slowly closes in on Arthur and Gary as the tension builds, the way the sound design is used to kind of distort reality. It all works together to create a really, really unsettling experience.
So it's not just what's happening in the scene, but how it's presented visually and orally that makes it so effective.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this movie that sounds like a visual and auditory feast with powerhouse performances, but a story that maybe doesn't quite live up to its potential.
Yeah, I think that's one way to put it. But beyond the technical aspects and the plot itself, I think one of the things that's really interesting about this film is the emotional response it seems to be provoking.
How so?
A lot of the reviewers use words like unsettling, disturbing, even manipulative to describe how it made them feel.
Manipulative. What do they mean by that?
It's like they felt like the film was almost punishing them for enjoying the first one.
For feeling sympathy for Arthur.
Exactly. Jeremy Jahns said it really well. He said, "It's almost like the film is trying to make you feel bad for ever rooting for the villain."
Wow. So it's supposed to make us question our own morality, our own capacity for empathy.
Maybe. I mean, that seems to be the intention, right? And that definitely comes into play with the ending.
Oh, yeah, we have to talk about the ending.
Because that's another thing that's really dividing people.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice. It's super ambiguous.
It is.
And honestly, some people might even say it's frustrating because it leaves you with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But it's like we almost expect a nice little bow on everything, especially in this genre.
Right.
But, I mean, the Joker movies have never really been about giving us that clean, satisfying resolution.
No, not at all. And that seems to be what a lot of these reviewers are wrestling with. Like, does it work?
Yeah.
Does this kind of open-endedness actually work for the film, or does it detract from it? Mm-hmm. The Critical Drinker actually said that he thought it was kind of a lazy way to try to provoke discussion without actually saying anything substantial.
Okay, but I feel like other reviewers didn't really agree with that take, right?
No, they didn't. Beyond the Trailer specifically said that they thought the ending actually forces us to confront the ripple effects of Arthur's actions.
Okay.
Because he might be gone.
Right.
Or maybe he's not. We don't really know.
Right.
But the chaos that he unleashed is still very much real.
So it's kind of saying that even if he's not physically present, his impact on the world is undeniable.
Exactly. And it makes you think about all the ways that our actions can have these unintended consequences.
And even beyond the ending, it feels like the whole movie is designed to kind of make you squirm a little, like make you question your own reactions to what you're seeing on screen.
Yeah, for sure. And what I think is really fascinating is that you can see that playing out in the audience reactions too. I mean, this film has been incredibly polarizing.
Oh, yeah.
Some people absolutely love it. They think it's a masterpiece. Other people absolutely hate it.
Like passionately hate it.
Passionately hate it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see that same kind of split, even in the critical response.
Yeah. And it's funny because the things that people are arguing about are literally the same points that the critics were debating. Like, are the musical numbers amazing or are they completely bonkers?
Yeah. Or is the ending a stroke of genius or a total cop-out?
Right. And I think it's almost like the film itself is a kind of social experiment, you know? Uh-huh. Like, it's designed to expose these different thresholds that we all have for discomfort and ambiguity.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, it makes you think, like, are we as an audience becoming less tolerant of films that don't give us those easy answers, that don't tie everything up in a neat little bow? Like, are we losing our ability to just sit with discomfort and think critically about what we're watching?
It's a good question, and it's not one that I think we can answer here.
Right.
But it's something to keep in mind, not just when approaching Joker, folie à deux, but any film that tries to subvert expectations or provoke a reaction.
Totally. So I guess the big question is, where does this leave us? We've got a movie that sounds incredible visually, amazing performances. It's clearly tackling some really interesting, complex themes. But it's also messy. Maybe the story's not great. And some people find it kind of manipulative, so should people see it?
I would say if you are a fan of the first Joker, or if you're just looking for a film that's going to stay with you long after the credits roll, go for it. But go in with your eyes open.
Yeah.
This is not a traditional comic book movie.
Not even a little bit.
No, it's a psychological thriller masquerading as a musical with a little dash of social commentary thrown in for good measure.
It's a lot. And that's kind of why we love doing these deep dives. And we take all these different reviews, all these different opinions, and try to help you make sense of the chaos.
Yeah.
So you can decide if it's something you want to check out.
Exactly. At the end of the day, that's really all we can do, right? Just give people the information they need to form their own opinions and then have those conversations.
Yeah.
With your friends, with your family, with other film buffs, and hopefully we've given you something to talk about.
For sure. So next time you're struggling to decide if you should see that new movie that everyone's talking about, remember, sometimes the most rewarding films are the ones that spark debate, that make you think, and yeah, maybe even leave you with a few unanswered questions.
Absolutely.
So until next time, happy viewing, everyone.